Trees for Yesha, the gift that keeps on growing. Planting a tree in Yesha is the perfect way to show you care. For $18 a fruit tree, you can show the Jews of Yesha that you stand together with them in these troubled times. Check out our website at treesforyesha.org.
Hi everyone, this program is being broadcast on our website on Israel's Independence Day, Yom HaAtzmaut. The State of Israel is today 57 years old, and we're here for a special Yom HaAtzmaut edition of Israeli Salad, so let's get the show on the road. Shalom and welcome to our Independence Day edition of Israeli Salad. First, let's begin with some statistics for the 57-year-old State of Israel. On the eve of Israel's 57th Independence Day, the population of Israel is around 6.9 million. Today, 76% of the population is Jewish. The population is 8.5 times the size of the population in 1948, when there were 806,000 residents in Israel. Since last Independence Day, 149,000 babies have been born in Israel. 26,000 new immigrants have arrived. 149,000 new babies. Wow. Okay, you know, in Israel you don't have to go far to find sites where you could learn about the history of the state. Every town, city, and kibbutz has a unique story, heritage, and history. Near the Gaza Strip is the kibbutz, the communal settlement of Saad. Saad is a religious kibbutz that was founded on June 30th, 1947, as part of the Religious Kibbutz Organization. During the 1948 War of Independence, the area where the Saad pioneers had set up their new kibbutz was almost entirely destroyed by enemy attack. Today, a small fort near the kibbutz serves as a museum that teaches the history of the kibbutzim of the area. We met two members of Saad at this museum, which is called a fort across from Gaza.
We worked in fields and orchards, and we were basically waiting for a piece of land to settle. This is how the place looked: tin huts, shacks, and tents. We didn't talk lofty. Everyone knew that this was what must be done.
Here we can see Saad Be'erot Yitzchak in Kfar Darom. The first kibbutz was called Be'eri.
It was the first Bnei Akiva group. The idea in Bnei Akiva was to settle in kibbutzim.
The religious settlement organization wanted to create blocks of settlements, and this was defined as a preferred location. The enemy wanted to destroy this place, especially in the early days of the war.
In the beginning of the war, we dug up shelters and bunkers, and our lives were carried on underground.
This is a model of a security post, which was the only structure that stayed intact.
This is from a shell hit.
The massive bombardment destroyed everything.
Here you can see a shack that was hit by the Egyptians. Even though the shack is gone, people continue to play music and relax.
The Egyptians were over there, where today there is a grove. They carried out intensive bombing. We have good observation onto the roads of the Gaza Strip. Observing Shabbat and holidays, they couldn't write down the movements. So they invented this board to mark which cars and of what make were observed on which road. That way they could later report to whomever they needed. It's a strategic point, and in 1967, in the Six-Day War, the IDF command sat here to control the entrance to the Gaza Strip. Today, we're exposed to bombardment from the Gaza Strip, and we don't really believe that we're heading towards peace.
Be sure to visit the Israeli Salad website. On the Israeli Salad site, scroll through all the editions, see what topics were presented on each program, and simply click on the icon to watch your favorite program. Also, watch all our fantastic music videos featured right here on Israeli Salad. So be sure to click on www.israelnationaltv.com/salad.htm. That's www.israelnationaltv.com/salad.htm.
The last time I visited Disney World, one of the things I thought was, if only we would use these techniques and technology to educate about Judaism and the heritage of the Jewish nation. Well, it turns out that someone is doing that already. Here's a visit to Beit HaPalmach, a unique and innovative museum located in the city of Tel Aviv.
הפלמ"ח הוא בעצם הכוח הסדיר של ארגון ההגנה. מוקם ב-41.
The Palmach was basically the organized force of the Haganah organization. It was established in 1941 in the wake of the fears of Nazi invasion into the land of Israel. It was the main force that fought against the British, helped Jews immigrate, established new settlements, and in the War of Independence, the Palmach restrained the Arab enemy and became the foundation of the Israeli Defense Forces.
The Palmach Museum commemorates the legacy of the Palmach. The museum was established by the Palmach Generation organization in order to teach of the heroism and courage of members of the Palmach. In the Palmach Museum, visitors learn the history of the Palmach by going through a large collection of pictures divided into the different eras and units. But the main attraction of the Palmach Museum is an innovative presentation where the story of the Palmach is presented in an extremely interactive manner.
אין פה מוצגים.
There are no displays. We have here a personal story as we meet a group of Palmachniks and we accompany them throughout the story.
Visitors to the museum join a fictional group of typical Palmach volunteers, and their story is told throughout the presentation, accompanied by three-dimensional elements, films, and various effects incorporating documentary materials.
מי זה ארי אריכה? ארי. אהוד מנחמי?
אודי.
כן.
אני לא עוזב את חבלה עד שאני רואה אותה בבית. לקחתי אותה ואחרי שבועיים הצטרפנו לקבוצה הראשונה שיצאה.
Various groups arrive at the Palmach Museum and take part in this presentation. Many of these groups consist of IDF soldiers who can learn practical lessons from the Palmach legacy. More than a formal continuation to the Palmach, the IDF is also an ideological continuation, as it has continued many of the ideas that were initiated in the Palmach.
מונחים כמו אחריי.
Concept like after me and like never abandon the wounded, setting an example, these concepts were taken from the Palmach to the IDF.
The Palmach was not just a military organization, it was a way of social life based on the values of pioneering settlement. The Palmach bases were situated in many kibbutzim, communal settlements, and the members participated in military training exercises while carrying out their agricultural chores, creating a social framework that was perceived as the core essence of the native-born Israeli.
The Palmach was like a family. Each unit was like a part of one big family, and the bonds of friendship are still strong today.
בפלמ"ח היו
In the Palmach, there were all kinds of people. The Palmach was a reflection of the society in those days.
של החברה באותה תקופה.
People would look at each other eye to eye. It didn't matter what their rank was, they all were friends.
The Palmach knew the land. The Palmach went through the whole land by foot.
It was simply seen as an ideal to be recruited to the Palmach, to serve, to establish a kibbutz, and set up a healthy society.
They had a unified goal. They worked together, loved each other, and cared for each other.
You see how a small part of the nation succeeds in influencing the entire nation.
It emphasizes for me that I must always appreciate that I'm here because of those who fought for my sake.
1,135 Palmach members, almost one-third of the force, were killed during the War of Independence. The tour begins and ends in a commemorative hall for fallen Palmach members, and the highlight of the presentation is the reciting of the Silver Platter poem written by Natan Alterman after the end of the War of Independence.
Thus like statues they stand, stiff and still with no motion, and no sign that will show if they live or are dead. Then a nation in tears and amazed at this matter will ask, "Who are you?" And they will then say, with soft voice, "We are the silver platter on which the Jewish state was presented today." Then they fall back in darkness as the dazed nation looks, and the rest can be found in the history books.
United Kingdom, abstain. United States, yes. Yugoslavia, abstain.
Like every year, the State of Israel is colored blue and white these days. Flag workshops have been working overtime for the past few weeks to manufacture flags for cars, balconies, parades, and more.
We worked for a month and a half from morning to night continuously. The flag is so important to us that we don't throw any flag in the garbage, even if it's damaged. We donate parts of the flags to synagogues and other places. My wish for the nation is that we'll always be strong and the flag will always be raised. May there be peace in our country.
The declaration of the state is definitely one of the main events that symbolize the beginning of what is believed to be part of the process of our redemption. Nevertheless, this event took place in a rather modest and simple hall. Last year we visited Heichal HaAtzmaut, where it all began.
At the Independence Hall in southern Tel Aviv, I met tour guide Itzik Dror, who told me the story of this modest hall where the State of Israel was declared. The Independence Hall is located in the home of Mayor Dizengoff, the founder of Tel Aviv. Although the natural place to declare the state should have been in Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, that option was not possible.
You have to understand Israel was born through agony. The country was in a state of war. Few weeks after the beginning of that war, Jerusalem was already under siege. So you see, it was impossible to go there and to declare independence. The roads to Jerusalem were blocked. A tiny Jewish government was sitting in Tel Aviv.
But even in Tel Aviv, things were far from peaceful.
The day Israel was declared was the day that the British rule came to an end. 6 Arab armies were ready to invade Israel the minute the British rule will come to an end. So it was clear that Tel Aviv will be under air raid that day. And they chose this hall. You can see around you where we are. It is if you are in a shelter, in a bomb shelter. Israel was born in a shelter.
The whole ceremony was organized quickly and secretly. Even the chairs that the founders of the state sat on were gathered in haste from nearby stores.
They had no time, nor the budget for a big and expensive ceremony. This stage, it was built by 2 volunteers who came here 48 hours before the ceremony. These carpets, these are the real carpets, were borrowed as well from a tiny shop around the corner here. The microphones were borrowed as well. If you can see, there is a description here. Tzlil was the name of the tiny electronic shop who gave this equipment for the use of the ceremony. And this is how David Ben-Gurion declared the establishment of the third temple, if you like, and in the same time did advertisement to a tiny shop around the corner called Tzlil. Thanks God they didn't borrow something from the Coca-Cola company. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the signs? The state of Israel is born through the sponsorship of the Coca-Cola company.
Although it was probably the most meaningful Independence Day, the first Yom HaAtzmaut didn't have many celebrations.
And the Egyptians were blitzed Tel Aviv that night. So there was no time for celebrations. People did not rejoice in the streets. It was really one of the most dangerous days to our people. Nobody knew how are we going to survive it.
Until a short time before Ben-Gurion and the others signed the declaration, there were some issues that were still being discussed, like the name of the state. Judea, Zion, and the western side of the Jordan River were some of the proposed names. Even the inclusion of God's name in the declaration was controversial, and at the end, it was decided that God would be referred to as the Rock of Israel, a term that could be understood in many ways. But the lasting legacy of this event was Ben-Gurion reading the words that have since been etched in the hearts of the Jewish people. We hereby declare the establishment of a Jewish state in the land of Israel, the State of Israel.
Israel was not established here. A Jewish state was established here, to be known as Israel. So you see, if they would have declared an Israeli state, it would be a state only for us Israelis. If you declare a Jewish state, automatically all the Jews around the world are taking part in this. And suddenly we have an army. What kind of a chutzpah is it? You know, a Jewish army? Suddenly the Jews protect themselves. And what happened here was that David Ben-Gurion opened a door that was shut to millions of our people during the years.
Please send your comments, ideas, and questions to the Israeli Salad email, yoni@israelnn.com, or leave a message on the Israeli Salad voicemail at international dialing code 972-3918-5554. That's 972-3918-5554.
And now our weekly insight. Today we'll be discussing the Parsha, the portion of the week of Behar. Shalom to Rabbi David Samson in Jerusalem.
Shalom Yoni, shalom to all of our viewers around the world.
This Parsha starts with the words, "And God spoke unto Moses at Mount Sinai." And the Parsha begins with the issue of Shemitah, the year of letting the land lay fallow. The biblical commentator Rashi asks about the beginning of this Parsha. What's the connection between Mount Sinai and the precept of Shemitah? So what does Rashi answer, and what does he teach us here in this commentary?
Well, it's interesting. Rashi is saying that just like these laws of the Shemitah were given in Mount Sinai, similarly the entire Torah was given at Mount Sinai. And we have to recognize that the Torah was not a compilation of historic progression of the Jewish people throughout the generation, but it's one of the basic axioms of belief that the entire Torah, as we have it today, was given by God to Moses at Mount Sinai. And that very simple axiom is a very basic principle of belief. And that if we don't have that, then it undermines the entire value of the Torah that today we worship. In our portion of the week, we see an interesting delineation of all of the not only general rules, but also the specifics of the Septennial year. And Rashi tells us an interesting concept, that all of the laws that many people believe the rabbis initiated were also given by Moses to Moses at Mount Sinai, and that the tradition was not rabbinically invented, but rather rabbinically transmitted. And the origin of the tradition is also from Moses at Sinai.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Samson.
The Weekly Insight is brought to you in cooperation with Machon Meir, the largest Zionist institute in Israel, bringing people closer to Judaism.
Okay, that's all for this week. Join us again next week for another program. Until then, from all of us here at Israel National News, Shalom.
Jewish Response to Missionaries. This is a powerful, new, and complete 18-part digitally remastered CD series or 24-part cassette series with 423 new pages, plus an in-depth study guide by Rabbi Tovia Singer, a must-have for any library collection. This outstanding commentary is available now for only $99 plus shipping and handling. Order online now at www.outreachjudaism.org or call toll-free 1-800-315-JEWS. That's 1-800-315-JEWS.